Howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we're going to talk about that shooting in Alabama, and there is a lot to talk about. So we're just going to kind of dive right into it. Starts off, police say we killed the shooter, and then the next day, okay, he didn't shoot anybody. Well, okay. I give the cops credit for doing that. When they shoot the wrong person, they normally don't admit it, but they did in this case. But even when they did, they they went through and that they didn't really come clean. What they said was he may have been involved in the altercation, and he was fleeing the scene. And when you say it like that, it sounds like he did something wrong. So let's take that out of PR speak real quick. He might possibly, we don't know, have been involved in the altercation, which means he could have been a victim. We do know that he didn't shoot anybody and he ran away. You mean to tell me this man ran away from somebody who opened fire in a mall? I mean, of course you had to shoot him. And that's not completely rational behavior at all. I know there's a bunch of internet tough guys that are going to say, well, if you're armed, you're going to shoot back. No, you're not. Most of you aren't. 4%. Most people are not going to engage if they can get away. That's fact. So far, there is nothing that has been released into the public narrative that suggests this man did anything wrong. Anything. And it's part of a growing trend, and we're going to get to that. But before we get to that, I want to talk about his military service, because that's what's being used to pit everybody against each other. Against everybody except for the people who killed the wrong person. See, his lawyer released a statement saying that he was honorably discharged. His family's lawyer said that he was honorably discharged. The Army said that he didn't complete AIT. Well, okay. Because of that, you have a bunch of military scholars in the comments section of every article saying, see, his lawyer's already lying. If you don't complete AIT, and AIT is Advanced Individual Training, you get an ELS, not a discharge. ELS is entry-level separation or enlistment-level separation. And that's true most times. You get an ELS if you didn't serve 180 days. Anything after 180 days, you get a discharge. Now, this guy was going to be a combat engineer, 12 Bravo. I want to say that's 14 weeks of training, might be 16. Either way, it's not 180 days. So if he was booted out prior to completing AIT, he had to have gotten an enlistment level separation, had to have gotten an ELS. Unless, of course, he got hurt and they didn't separate him because they thought he was going to get better and it extended beyond 180 days, or he got recycled in part of the training, or 100 other things. Or there's the option of it, well, it's the Army. Do you know any vet whose DD-214 is right the first time out the door? I know a guy who never left Fort Benning that had a Purple Heart in his jacket. I know that Victory Drive gets rough at night sometimes, but getting knocked out by a bouncer doesn't really count as getting wounded by enemy action. And they argued with him when he tried to get it fixed. They argued with him, and it went on a while. And this guy's like, I never even deployed. That's not what the records say. It's the military. It's the Army. It's a branch. It's part of the government. It's a branch service, part of the government. They're not always right with their paperwork. So it is completely possible that this man never completed AIT and he got an honorable discharge. It is also completely possible that he got an ELS and his paperwork says that he was honorably discharged. So that's what his lawyer said. Either one of those things is completely within the realm of possibility. And now we got to talk about that photo, because that's what's That's what the media is using to inflame everybody. And there he is. He's a disgrace to the uniform. Obviously not, quote, a real soldier. Guarantee you the people who've saying this, they've never seen a kill book. You think real soldiers don't do things wrong? What's more of a disgrace to the uniform? Urinating on an enemy KIA and have your buddy taking a picture of it? Or having your hat backwards in a bathroom? This would not be the first time in history that a newly minted troop did something stupid. It's part of being an E1. I mean, yeah, he was out of regs. Okay. In a bathroom. This is not a huge mark against his character. I mean, you have the right to do something stupid when you first join. Everybody does. So there's that. But before we go any further and start talking about the rest of this, I want to point out that it doesn't matter if he was dishonorably discharged because he punched a colonel in the face after driving drunk through the gate and crashing into an MP's car. He didn't shoot anybody. Being armed and black is not a crime. And right now I know there's people going, Bo, don't play the race card. Oh yeah, we're going to play the race card because we just had another guy, good guy with a gun, stop a shooting. And then the cop showed up and killed him. Goes back further than that too. We can go to Philando Castile, another legally carrying gun owner. We go to John Crawford. Didn't even have a gun, had a BB gun in the store, hadn't even bought it yet. Cops killed him. Even if it had been a gun, wouldn't have been illegal. Ohio's an open carry state. What do those people all have in common? I mean, other than the NRA not coming to help their families after this. What do they all have in common? The NRA doesn't actually represent gun owners. Not in practice. They represent gun manufacturers. Now, if you look like me and something like this happens to you, they might say something. Probably not, because they're really more interested in keeping that Molon Labe crowd happy. You know, the same people that have the thin blue line sticker on their car. They really want to keep them happy and keep them paying dues, so they're not going to do anything to upset the police. Being armed in black isn't a crime. It's not. There is nothing that has been said that suggests this man did anything wrong. And let me just go ahead and throw some other stuff out there. Let's say, for example, he got into a fight with somebody, and that person pulled out a gun and started shooting and hit 2 innocent people. Guess who still doesn't deserve to be shot? Let's say he pulled out his gun. Still doesn't deserve to be shot. Fleeing the scene. What that tells me is that he didn't point his weapon at the cops, because they would have said that. He was running away. So let's really just run through what we know. A legally carrying gun owner shot no one and ran away from somebody who was shooting. That's what we know. That's what's entered the public narrative. Those are the facts we have. If you have already decided that this guy did something worthy of his death, your biases are coming into play. You can't tell me, oh, well, I trust the cops. The same guys who thought they killed the right person. You think they got a good grasp on the situation, huh? Your biases are coming into play. So what it is. It's his skin tone and the fact that he had his hat backwards. Biases exist. If you don't acknowledge them, they will persist. You have got to really step back from this situation and look at it. Nothing suggests this man did anything wrong. Now, if you're a cop and you're watching this, I imagine by this point you're probably pretty mad. And that's fine. You can be mad. I'm going to throw you a bone, though, because there's obviously a little bit of confusion. If you roll up on a scene and don't really know what's going on, positive threat identification is really important. You use time, distance, and cover to make that determination. That's how you figure out if he's a good guy or a bad guy. Time, distance, and cover. If he starts to point his weapon at the crowd, that's what we might call an indicator. Okay? If he's just running away, he's just running away. Being armed and black is not a crime. And when you make that determination, by the way, you want to use that and determine whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy before you shoot him, since there is some confusion about that part. We as a country have to start acknowledging our biases. And when anytime a situation like this comes up, we see them in play. You should see them. If you're looking for them, you'll see them. If we don't start acknowledging these biases and letting them fade away because we recognize they exist, the establishment, the powers that be, will always be able to play us against each other. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good night.